I think going into the tournament, I felt quite stressed, especially the first night when the draw was announced, knowing that I was going to play the SA number one. Felt a bit uneasy, and I think it just confirmed that I don't think I won't say that I wasn't ready. I was ready to get a new experience. I wasn't fooling myself to think that I will do exceptionally well, but I was going there to learn. I really did feel a bit scared. I felt scared going into the match, and then actually meeting the guy sort of relieved a lot of pressure because Dievel's actually a really nice guy. He smiled a lot, we chatted beforehand. It's something that I don't expect from really good squash players. Normally they've got a sort of air of arrogance around them, or they want everyone to know that they're the best. Whereas with him, I felt like he was really humble, he was a really nice guy. He was obviously serious about the match because the scores suggest and show that. But at the same time, though, it wasn't like he wanted to impose his superiority on me. And it was actually very encouraging to see the person that's the best at the sport in the country actually act like a normal human being, act like he's just there on court to share an experience with you and just to play. That sort of eased the tension, and I really enjoyed the game as much as the result doesn't reflect it. The rallies were good, they were long. Going into it, I was scared, and then on the day, that fear sort of went away, and it was just actually a cool experience where I felt like, oh yeah, I'm here to learn some new things, and it's actually an opportunity and a privilege to get on court with some of these guys. I think just even joking with friends like Liam Ford, I think he even says, as long as I got a point out of the three games, that's a win in itself because Dievel's just in another level. I won't say I expected it, but I was really hoping for it, and I did get some. I got some points from him, I got some points. I even got some games during the tournament, which is something I did not really, I won't say I didn't think it's possible. I felt like I wanted to play games. I wanted to play well, and even if I lost 3-love in all the games, as long as I played well, I would be happy. But I think getting points and games, even though it was only 2 games out of the 12, I was happy with that. So did I expect to get points? Maybe not as much, but in my heart of hearts, I definitely felt like it would be important to at least get a point in each game against Dievold. So on Saturday morning, what was good about Saturday morning was the fact that we played at 12:45. But what I wasn't expecting was to play at 5:30. So the gap between the first match and the second match on Saturday was really short. Came back, had a nap, and after an hour of napping, really felt the impact of the first game on the Friday as well as the Saturday morning game. It was actually funny that when I played Diervold, with the pace and the fact that he fetches everything, the strain and the fatigue I felt, I would say, wasn't as bad on the muscles, but I really felt like I got tested in terms of fitness in my lung capacity and chest. My chest was on fire. Whereas with the other matches, it was a lot more of my legs fading as the day went. So maybe I was lucky because that was the first game, and as the days went on, I felt the impact on my legs. But during the match against Diervold, I could have probably run afterwards or played another game afterwards, but my chest was on fire. It was just like another level of fitness. Average heart rate, I believe, was around 178 over the 25 minutes, and that even included a warm-up. So it was super low. So that means it was really, peaking really up there if the average over the entire time, including warm-ups and breaks, was 178. I guess a takeaway point from this was the level of fitness that's required to play with these guys. These are the top 50 in the country. The level of fitness that is required to compete against them is something that I have not been training for. I tried to train beforehand. I've been playing a lot of squash beforehand, but the body wasn't accustomed to this. And I think also having so many matches, 4 matches over a period of 2.5 days, that is another level of fitness. I feel like I learned a lot, but was I ready physically for it? No, which has obviously changed a lot in terms of how I view training for tournaments and just for squash in general. So in the second game, I played John Timotheus, who's the SA number 27. I think Limpopo number 2, also a sponsored player. I think what I learned, and it was very different playing against Diervold, because not that Diervold didn't play a fast pace. He played a fast pace in the fact that he would get to the ball, but I'm talking about paces in hitting, really smacking the ball and putting a lot of pressure on you that way. He would do that by cutting off, whereas with John T, he played at a lot faster pace, and I think even after I took the game, he sort of turned it up a notch in terms of the, pace in which he was hitting the ball. What did I learn from that game? I think it was also just looking at his physical characteristics, his height, his build. The shortest person I played was the junior, and he was about my height. So he's obviously still got a lot of growing to go. I think I realized, not that height is important, but definitely the conditioning that you need to have to sort of play at a certain pace. I think it suits the leaner body type, leaner body structure, and I just was able to see that with him, to say that I took a game and he was able to still take it up another notch and not feel fatigued. He was dripped in sweat. I was also sweating like anything, but he could still go. So it was also a fitness thing the biggest thing I've learned in the entire tournament was fitness. But he sort of re-emphasized that in that match. I think I learned that from Deerwold's game as well. But the difference with Deerwold was the fact that he sort of just kept the ball in play. He just kept the rally going. His percentage of error was, he minimized that, but not going for that kill shot, that very low shot. It was still fast, it was still low, but it wasn't just above the tin. And that made him, just kept the rally going, and he was still getting that ball really deep into the back and just kept me on the back foot. John T, he was able to make adjustments very quickly. I think if there's anything that I can say, I made adjustments, I stole a game, and then he was also able to make that adjustments to say, well, okay, this is what you did, and I'm going to nullify that. I found out he studied a maths degree, so I think he's definitely, in terms of calculating and making changes, he's got that ability mentally. Yeah, so that was the third game against Luke. The one part about it, even going after the game, not to take anything away from Luke. Luke is a fantastic player, and I wasn't even expecting that level of maturity in his play from a junior. Definitely the first two games took a lot out of me, so I wasn't fit enough to give Luke the run maybe he deserved. It doesn't mean that it would have changed the outcome, but I think he was able to, one, spot the weaknesses or the fatigue. I think the first game, not that it was closer, it was very different, and then he sort of turned it up as well. I think he realized that the legs were not as responsive as they need to be, and he could exploit that. But being able to exploit that still takes a level of skill and maturity, because sometimes I feel the juniors love playing, just length balls the entire time because it's a good drill, it's a nice thing that they like to do, but they don't change it up. And he was really able to change it up. He stepped up on the court. He just played really, really well. I saw he was really explosive in his legs. I saw in his build when I was watching one of his games, I believe one of the games that I was refereeing when he played against Jonathan, I could see that because he's lower in terms of his center of gravity and stuff like that, he used that to his advantage, how he accelerates on the ball, how he moves. So I think I realized the importance of, not really, I don't want to call it speed, but how he approaches the ball before he hits it, really being in that deep squat. I don't think he lunged much. If he did lunge, and obviously he's got a very strong wrist. His racket preparation is very good. Reminds me a lot of, I won't say, the closest I could probably say it reminds me of is Paul Cole, but his racket was always up, and he was able to really get through and flick that ball with his wrists. I believe he concentrated a lot, even when you play at Boast, to sort of say, I want to make sure that my feet are in the right position, my racket is up. A very technically sound player, I think. I think that's one thing I did learn from Luke, now that I think about it, was that the importance of being technically sound in your approach to shots, while you hit the shots, even just your approach to getting to the ball, making sure you've got that right, and then executing your shot with correct technique. I think also Deerwold also got he plays a lot more of a wristy game, meaning that he uses his wrist a bit more, he flicks it, but the thing is that his approach to the ball is, impeccable. He's not winging it, it's measured and calculated. But I saw that a lot from Luke. Maybe I noticed it a lot more because he's also shorter than everyone else, so the taller players maybe can get there in 2 steps and sort of just, naturally play. But I think when he was pushed, even though he was pushed, he made sure that he got there with the right preparation, with the right sort of footwork and how he stands before he hits the ball. Yeah, the last game, that was against Dean. Dean is a local PE boy. I won't say watched him, but he grew up in PE, he went to Grey. I have seen him play, and he's always been playing first league from the time I moved to PE. Very lean, very fluid in the way he moves to the ball. I think him and the other player that I watched, Ruel, from Potchefstroom University, they're very fluid in their movement. As I said, I think even now when I'm talking about Deerwold and John T and Luke, as well as Dean, being able to work, I think working on your movement is really important, which obviously comes with fitness, making sure that you are fit enough to move and approach the ball well, but also not losing that form and technique when you get tired. So being able to still do that in the 4th and 5th game is really important. Dean should not have landed in that, I won't say that position. I think he should not have been playing, for 15 and 16 with me. He should be a lot higher up, but I do understand that he was really, really tired from the match that he had on the Saturday morning as well. Tough match can really ruin it for you, especially if you've got such a short period of time to recover. I feel like, if it was one game a day, you probably would have done a lot better. From Dean, it was just fluidity in his movement, And I think also, when I think about it, I took the first game, and I think he was also able to make the adjustments and calculations afterwards. That's really sort of, I wouldn't say it's important, and I think it just depends on the person's characteristics and temperament. But someone like Deerwold, I guess, because it worked for him in the first game, second game, he didn't have to change much throughout. Jonty, I saw make that change and adjustment. Luke, I saw that because maybe he wasn't comfortable at either, or maybe just saw an opportunity, or maybe got the right advice at halftime. Dean, I also thought he made sort of the necessary adjustments, and also he realized that, yeah, these legs were not carrying me. I have not trained hard enough, but at least now I'm not too sure when the next tournament is. I know what it is that I need to prepare for it. I know how long. Hopefully there's a long lead time to prepare for it. But yeah, there was a lot of things to learn. I'm actually probably going to write about it in a blog post on the Squash Bagel website. Yeah, there was a lot of things to learn from this tournament. I really did enjoy the experience and the opportunity to play with these type of players. The hope is that I get to see them one day on a court somewhere, some other tournament, and they remember me, and the time that they play me the next time, it's a bit better. That I've made these adjustments and improvements from feedback from them, as well as from having that opportunity to be on the court. The nutrition component of it, not that we got it confused. Obviously, my biggest obstacle that I had going into the tournament, I would feel, was being a lot more self-conscious maybe about weight. So the idea was sort of not to cut down carbs, but yeah, to minimize on carbs, to try obviously bring my weight down a lot lower for the tournament, because I thought that was going to be an obstacle. But funny enough, I listened to this podcast before, and it only comes to light again, afterwards, when you feel the negative effects of not having enough carbs. I think it was that podcast with Chris Henshaw, who's the guy which helps a lot of the CrossFit athletes, and also even speaking to Ruan, who's the CrossFit guy that I played before. He said that there are two type of athletes: ones who want to look good, and others who want to perform well. The ones who want to perform well, they do eat their carbs, and I think definitely needed to carb load a lot more. And it was an experiment that we ran, but we've learned a lot of things from it, when it is that we must schedule our carbs probably more during the day after workouts, and not just stay away from carbs completely. You need carbs. That was a learning curve in terms of how you recover what you need as fuel before going into the match. Yes, you can run fat stores, but it takes some time for your body to be adaptive, or fat adaptive, as they call it, or that's the term and phrase being used. But drank a lot of water, never felt dehydrated. Drank a lot of Rehydrate from USN. I definitely need to trim down, as I said, in terms of being able to move fluidly, have better endurance. I definitely need to trim down, and I'll be working on that, and it has been changing since the start of preparing for the tournament. Nutrition obviously sipped on a lot of USN energy. Went through a lot of this stuff in training as well as during the matches. Hydration was important. We did cover that part. But on the food side, we probably need to look into some other USN products like gels during matches. Probably a lot more protein afterwards to make sure the muscles recover. I think maybe that is something I can probably add to, let's say, the regimen, to say after a tough game, have enough protein so the muscles can recover, so you don't feel as fatigued going to the next match. But we will obviously be looking into the USN range of protein sources, and probably even, I do know they offer cramp blocks and all that kind of things, all those kind of things. I don't think I cramped at all. Maybe my toes on the way home. Probably look at the USN cramp block and stuff like that. But I think we are fine-tuning the nutrition component. A lot of it was with Imila's help. She's also experimenting with a couple of things, and we're getting that right compared to when I started preparing for the tournament till now. It's more than 2 kgs lost. I think the tournament definitely helped with that. Moving towards the 3 kg goalposts, and then just as we keep on going, as we play a lot more matches and league starts getting to look a lot more lean and mean. That is a minimum requirement, as I've realized playing this tournament. I don't think it is advisable to sort of not be in shape or fit enough to play squash. There's that famous saying, you don't play squash to get fit, you get fit to play squash. So that is mission number 1 at the moment for the rest of the year and for the rest of my playing career, making sure that I am fit enough by the time tournaments and league starts.